So, about last night, the debate. I don't think it really matters much whether Biden won or Trump won. What came across clearly is that we are still not talking about, as 11 days away from the election, we are still not talking about what we need to be talking about. It took 58 minutes to mention the worst economy in 90 years that everyone seems to be voting on. It took 72 minutes to get to the most important racial justice uprising in the last 60 years, with the largest on-the-streets movement in recorded American history. And it took 80 minutes, 10 minutes before the debate wrapped up, to start talking about the climate crisis, the existential threat to our future. And it is even worse than that. The clock ran out entirely before we could talk about one of the most important issues the next administration will confront. That is the concentration of monopoly power in the hands of a few big tech companies. Since they didn't talk about it last night, since it's barely been discussed in this election at all, I am going to talk about it today because I can't, because I'm not corporate media like the debate host last night. NBC, which of course merged with Universal Pictures and is owned by Comcast, which is the largest cable TV and internet service company in the country. For all the control Comcast, NBC, Universal, etc. has on information flowing in and out of your home, the scariest thing about this conglomerate is that it is nothing compared to the 5 big tech companies that permeate our lives. We are talking about monopoly power on an unheard of scale. Now, progressives have always been the enemies of monopoly power. We fought the railroads, the meat packers, the oil companies. We helped break up the phone companies because we know that monopoly power is corporate power on steroids. Monopoly power exploits its workers, exploits its customers, and it tramples its competitors. Monopoly power in the past has been one of our most important mobilizing issues. It's actually not too wonky an issue to show up on the streets and organize around. At the beginning of the 20th century, farmers helped lead the progressive movement because the railroads strangled their access to the markets to distribute their goods. In our moment, monopoly power is concentrated in these giant tech companies, Google, Facebook, Apple, and maybe the worst of all, Amazon. Europeans are way ahead of us in standing up to these corporate giants, but the reckoning is coming. Now, weren't we proud of AOC when she used her voice to help the movement on the ground block government giveaways to Amazon? You know, the bribe that several New York City Democrats signed on to with a letter inviting them into a building, a corporate headquarters near my neighborhood in Queens. Locals fought it off and won. And AOC, a local, was a huge part of that fight, scaring Jeff Bezos himself out of the city, at least temporarily. Now that's a true progressive, fighting monopoly power and crony capitalist government. Yet, even AOC, champion of our fight against Amazon, couldn't avoid the tentacles of the Jeff Bezos octopus. To reach young voters the other night, she went on Twitch with a get out to vote message and several hours of learning to play Among Us. Okay, I bet some of you gamers right now just looked up in bafflement or fright. Well, because you're on Twitch all the time, right? Maybe you're even playing Fortnite on Twitch right now while you're watching the Nomiki show. Cool. Except not so cool. Because guess who owns Twitch? Amazon owns Twitch. Now don't get me wrong. Among Us is a great game for progressives to master. You have to spot the imposter who is undermining your group's unified efforts. Sound familiar? My problem is not the game. It is the owner of the platform. This is such a perfect illustration of how monopoly power is permeating our lives. To do her job of reaching young voters, AOC had to use Twitch. To get this show on air, we have to use Apple products, even if they have the blood of Chinese workers on them and rare earth minerals in them. These companies give us services we love, many of them seemingly for free. But in fact, they take our participation in their search or networking or shopping or gaming, and they use it to build vast empires of wealth and power that we become beholden to, that we become reliant on. The only beneficiaries of this concentration of wealth are the people who own it. It doesn't trickle down as much as they like to propagandize. Amazon has fought the unionization of workers, like Chris Smalls. It has exacerbated climate change in so many ways. And Jeff Bezos has rolled up billions of dollars in new wealth during this pandemic, while His workers were dying of COVID while they were unprotected. And the trail of Amazon's success is littered with the bones of smaller companies crushed by its market power. Twitch, in fact, was an independent company until 2014, when Amazon outbid Google to buy it for $1 billion in cash. The only competition these tech companies, these monopolies seem to know is bidding against each other to gobble up other smaller companies. Think about this stat. You know, the Standard & Poor's Index, basically it's like the stock market that Trump loves so well. The 5 biggest companies are all tech giants. Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook, and Google in that order. Even more shocking, those 5 companies are 24% of the entire index. More concentrated wealth in a handful of companies at the top of the market than ever before. And with all that wealth comes enormous market and political power. Too much market and political power in the hands of a few corporations. Progressives, they have to say no, however they can, in whatever way and with whatever power we have, as we did in Queens. This will be one of the defining challenges for the hopefully new president, because of course the Obama administration did cozy up to many of these companies, as these companies exploited laws established by previous administrations. There is no path as individuals to avoid these companies completely. This is actually what this new kind of monopoly power looks like. We actually need government action to break up these tech giants or find other ways to curb their power. If you want, we can stream the antitrust hearings on Twitch. Thanks for watching and listening to The Nomiki Show. But remember to click like and subscribe on YouTube, and please share on social media. If you're not already a patron, please join us for as low as $5 a month on patreon.com/The Nomiki Show for early and special content. That investment makes a huge difference. We are not corporate media raking in the dough. It's really you guys that are keeping us going. So please consider being a patron. And to our current patrons, thank you so much. We are incredibly grateful to you. We also now have swag. So check us out on thenomikishow.com to get your mugs, your totes, and your stickers.